He loved the great outdoors so much that he built a wooded property where he and his wife would grow old. But on a bright, beautiful morning, he got up as he always does to enjoy his morning coffee while taking in the great outdoors, when suddenly an apex predator locked eyes with him. The result? A vicious fight to the death. But in a dramatic turn of events, no one saw the end of this fight coming. Neither the predator nor the prey. The beautiful Groom Creek area near Prescott, Arizona is known for being both beautiful and peaceful. Residents go camping around the area, have a couple of beers, cookouts, and just have a good time in the great outdoors. Every inch of the creek is gorgeous and picturesque, a great place to head to when the hustle and bustle of city life become overwhelming and you need some quiet. Naturally, you'd assume that aside from the occasional bugs and mosquitoes, there'll be nothing to worry about, right? Wrong. Because on a bright, beautiful morning on the 16th of June 2023, poor Steven Jackson had a surprise visit from one of the deadliest predators on the planet. Like any other nature lover, Steven understood the need to live a more peaceful life all too well. He loved hanging around nature and the great outdoors so much that he decided to build his own property out in the woods. Was it unconventional? Yes. But he did not care. At the age of 66, Steven had had enough of the city life, and all he wanted to do was retire peacefully amidst nature with his lovely wife. It was his dream, his goal, his vision. And for 15 whole years, he came around Groom Creek to build his property little by little. Finally, after almost 7 decades of work, he was done. Now, he had completed his dream home away from all the city noise, and he couldn't be happier. His routine was simple. He'd wake up every morning and go outside for some coffee. Sitting in the middle of the quiet woods, he'd take in the smell of the clean morning breeze. The air was different around here, and he loved it. Then, he'd prepare another cup of coffee for his wife and gently wake her up. She loved him for that, and they couldn't wait to live out the rest of their lives down in Groom Creek near Prescott, Arizona. But on the 16th of June 2023, fate destroyed their plans. Like every other morning before then, Steven Jackson woke up that morning and sat outside, sipping his morning coffee without a care in the world. But unknown to him, this cup of coffee was going to be his very last. As he enjoyed his drink and admired the beautiful sights, he heard a twig snap behind him, so he paused and turned around, listening intently. There was nothing. So he shrugged and turned back to his coffee. After one more sip, he couldn't help but listen to his intuition to turn back around again. And that was when it happened. He thought he saw something black and shiny in the bushes. In the river of green leaves, a black color stood out, and he didn't know what it was. Perhaps if he moved closer. And just then, his eyes widened as he realized what was lurking behind the bushes. It was a bear, a huge black bear, and now it had jumped out from behind the bushes and began running towards him. Now this is where it gets intense. In a fit of panic, he dropped the mug and tried to stand up. His plan was to make a run for it back into his wooded property, back to safety. Perhaps he could protect his wife too. He would lock the doors so the bear wouldn't get in. But sadly, the speed and reflexes of a 66-year-old man do not even come close to that of a healthy black bear. Before Steven could get very far, the bear had launched into the air and landed on top of him, bringing Steven down, crashing hard on the ground. The next few minutes were purely horrific. Fear was the only thing Stephen felt at the time. He cried out for help, but the bear didn't even give him enough time to cry out. It began to launch attack upon attack. First, using its claws, it tore into Stephen's flesh. The blood began to seep out of him like sap from a tree. Then, the bear lowered its head and began to bite and chew on his arm, face, and thigh. The pain was excruciating, and Stephen must have realized that he was helpless on his own. But if he could call people to come to his rescue, there might be a chance for him to come out of this alive. So, he did the only thing he could do at that point: scream for help. On top of his lungs, he screamed as the black bear kept doing damage to his body, tearing, slashing, biting, and chewing. But if you think this was the last of it, then you're in for a shocker. Because after a few moments, the bear must have gotten more upset at his call for help, so it clamped its teeth onto poor Stephen's leg, and the 365-pound black bear dragged Stephen like a rag doll up to 75 yards away from the initial location where the attack started. And then, as they changed locations, the bear proceeded to continue its attack. By now, Stephen was already bleeding heavily and getting weaker by the second. The ferocious bear was not making matters any better as it continued to jump and pounce on him. Still, all Stephen could do was scream. And just when he thought all hope was completely lost, he heard some neighbors coming around in the distance. They had heard his call and came to see what was going on. As soon as they saw their friendly neighbor being attacked by a black bear, they launched into rescue mode. However, they had to be smart about this. They couldn't exactly just walk up to a vicious black bear. They had to tread with caution. So, while the bear continued its attack, the neighbors scrambled around to get their cars and began honking the horns as loudly as they could to scare the bear. It was a solid plan to get the animal to run away, but sadly, this bear wasn't giving up so easily. Despite the honkings, the black bear continued its assault on the 66-year-old man. Then, the neighbors began throwing things at the bear, but still, the bear was not fazed. Stephen was already at an inch of his life by now. Covered in blood and scratches, amidst the angry growls of the bear, he was slowly drifting away. The neighbors realized this. They knew they had to take drastic action to stop the attack. Stephen didn't have much time. Now this is where the story takes an interesting turn. One of the neighbors ran into his house, grabbed his gun, and ran back outside. With a deep breath and steady hands, the neighbor aimed for the bear, making sure not to cause any more casualty to Stephen. As soon as he had a clear shot, the neighbor pulled the trigger. And just like that, the once ferocious black bear ceased its attack and weakened a little. But the shooter wasn't done. For good measure, he sent another bullet into the bear's body, and that did the trick. Like a sack of potatoes, the bear fell to the ground, and silence descended upon the creek. Just as soon as they were all sure the bear was dead, the neighbors ran to check on Stephen and called for medical help. But sadly, Stephen was not responsive. The realization hit everyone like a freight train. Stephen Jackson was dead. But why? How come the bear attacked just like that? This is where it gets a bit confusing. Naturally, black bears are known to not seek out trouble intentionally. They're territorial, but they do not attack unless they're threatened. Stephen never threatened the bear, so why the attack? A lot of theories began to circulate. Some believed the bear was hungry or starving. Others believed it had some kind of disease. So, to get to the bottom of the attack, a necropsy was conducted, and the results were even more shocking than the attack. Results showed that the bear was a healthy, mature male in good health condition. He wasn't hungry or starving, as speculation suggested, and there were no signs of disease of any sort. Curious. Till today, no one knows why that bear attacked. It is written down as predatory instinct, but that just covers the mystery behind the incident. In the end, Stephen Jackson didn't make it out alive, and neither did the bear. Still, a tragic end for a peaceful man. Also ironic, a nature lover killed by nature itself. If you enjoyed this story, then click this video to see the next bone-chilling one.